Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Today we are having our 4th annual Multifaith Mina Dinner with our wider communities to celebrate our spirit of Ramadan.
My name is Syed Tawqir and I am one of the members from Mina, and it is my pleasure to be here amongst all of you today, and on behalf of Mina I would like to welcome all of you to the 4th annual multicultural Eid Dinner, and I would like to welcome all of you with the Islamic greetings. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May peace, mercy and blessings of Almighty God be on all of you. I would like to acknowledge that today we are meeting on the land of the Wurundjeri people, and I would like to take this opportunity to pay my respects to the elders past and present, and extend this respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait people from other communities who may be present here today. We would like to start today's event by recitation of verses from the glorious Quran, and I would like to call upon one of our Mina members, Sheikh Ahmed, to do the recitation.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا يسخر قوم من قوم عسى أن يكونوا خيرا منهم ولا نساء من نساء عسى أن يكن خيرا منهن ولا تلمزوا أنفسكم ولا تنابزوا بالألقاب بئس الاسم الفسوق بعد الإيمان ومن لم يتب فأولئك هم الظالمون يا أيها الذين آمنوا اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن إن بعض الظن إثم ولا تجسسوا ولا يغتب بعضكم بعضا أيحب أحدكم أن يأكل لحم أخيه ميتا فكرهتموه واتقوا الله إن الله تواب رحيم يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير.
Mina, as you just saw, is a social and community volunteer organization active in the northern suburbs of Melbourne since 8 years. Some of the activities include social support, helping new migrants, annual multicultural events, and striving to help one another live with the Australian values and way of life. Our dinner event tonight is for all of us to celebrate the spirit of Ramadan and share this festivity with our neighbors, colleagues, friends and community leaders. And like every year, we have guest speakers tonight, except that this year we also have a kids program, and since this is their first time, these kids will need our encouragement and support, and their program will be the first one. So may I call upon all the kids to come to the stage and show their program.
I wonder if the stars so bright. I dream about my future. depend on me somehow, though small and timid I am now. So you and I, my dearest friend, must stand together till the end, for we are one by Allah's grace. No matter what our color or race, we must prepare ourselves today, while we journey on life's way. So much there is to learn and see, for true believers we must be.
Yeah, come on, go forward, young Muslims, wherever we are, in the shadow of the sun, by the light of the star. The supreme protector is Almighty Allah. Go forward, young Muslims, wherever we are. Together we must stand in the masjid to pray. Pray for a better day, a better way to make this place a better place. Let's face it, it's out of control. We need to grab hold of each other, unite as one ummah. Like back in the days at the founding of the Prophet, some were young, they were strong, and they loved each other, brothers and sisters, and they would help one another. Yeah.
Oh Allah, we love you so. Give us health and make us grow. Be with us each passing day, while we journey on life's way. On life's way. On life's way.
When I grow up, I would like to be a doctor.
When I grow up, I want to be a teacher. When I grow up, I'd like to be a scientist. When I grow up, I'd like to be a netball player.
When I grow up, I want to be a police officer.
I would like to share a few words about this phrase, less is more. While this phrase, less is more, may not hold good in the materialistic world, but it does hold true in the spiritual world. For example, one simple thank you to anyone, $1 in charity, a note of appreciation to our spouses, a hug or a kiss to our kids when we drop them in school or when we pick them up, a visit to those who are sick, a message of hope to those undergoing depression, or just giving a smile. These are short yet powerful messages, and the significance of today's event is, within the limited resources, to have a positive influence on our community at large. And with that, I would like to introduce you our first speaker. She is a Coburg local and she runs a small business and is from the Greens. Her passion is local produce and has secured the Coburg North Primary School Farmers Market. She also stresses on the importance of and the need for local, national and global action on climate change and the importance of clean air, fresh water, unpolluted land for future generations. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the Mayor of the City of Moreland Council, Natalie Aboud.
And what an amazing performance that was. I thought I could never beat something like that, so I'll just have to try harder. Good evening to all of you, and thank you for inviting me to join you in celebrating the holy month of Ramadan. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Wurundjeri of the Kulin Nation as the traditional owners and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'd also like to acknowledge that this land was taken without treaty, compensation or consent. I'd like to acknowledge some important people in the room. I mean, that's everybody, but some specific people the leader of the Victorian Greens and my friend, Samantha Ratnam, member of the Legislative Assembly for Northern Metro, my fellow councillor, Sue Bolton, and the federal member for Corwell, Maria Van Vakanu. I suspect there's quite a lot of important people in this room. I'd like to also pay my respects to leaders of the community as well, and everybody that's organised what's happening today. And I think probably a lot more names will be read up and everyone will be covered eventually. So, tonight we come together from many backgrounds, faiths and cultures, and by sharing a meal together, we also share in and celebrate our diversity. This event gives us a wonderful opportunity to reflect on the sense of belonging and inclusiveness that is at the heart of what we value in our multicultural community. On behalf of the City of Moreland, I'd like to acknowledge the Muslim Information Network of Australia, Mina, for your generous hospitality this evening. To the many service organisations represented here this evening, I'd also like to acknowledge and thank you for your vital contribution to our Moreland community. I'd like to thank all the Mina volunteers who are the lifeblood of your organisation. Your efforts are strengthening our community through educational, social and youth services and by community outreach programs. By reaching out with services, events and celebrations, and by connecting with local groups, sports clubs, schools and families, you embody the essence of a strong community spirit. That spirit is very much aligned with the values of the City of Moreland. It is one of our key priorities to welcome all cultures, backgrounds and abilities, and to recognise and celebrate diversity. Our local community is an excellent and vibrant place to be. This is not surprising, given that Australia is one of the most successful multicultural populations in the world, and those of us who live here know that Brunswick and Moreland is a great example of that success. Even with our relatively small population and our geographic isolation, and I mean Australia, not Moreland, we're okay here in Moreland, we can get everywhere we need to get. We are recognised as one of the most livable countries on earth. So it is with pride that I can say our city is a microcosm of that success, made possible through organisations such as Mina and others like it, who contribute to and continue to create opportunities that support families, young people and the community. On behalf of the City of Moreland, I acknowledge the important role of Mina and all other service organisations represented here this evening. Thank you for your valuable contribution, which is integral for our sense of safety, security and acceptance. You can be proud that your energy, enthusiasm and collaborative spirit is making a very positive and vital contribution to the well-being of our community now and into the future. And I'm pretty sure there's nowhere else in Victoria that you will see a small group of gorgeous Muslim children singing I Am Australian in an Indigenous language. So I'm blown away. Well done. Thank you so much.
Currently, she's appointed as the Principal Commissioner for Children and Young People. What prompted her to move into legal advocacy was a lack of justice the system could provide for children and young people. She has raised community awareness and campaigned for the rights of vulnerable children. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our next speaker, Liana Buchanan.
Thank you. And I too would like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land that we're meeting on tonight, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my deep respects to their elders past, present and emerging. It won't surprise anyone that people often have to adjust the microphone upwards a little bit when I come to the stage. It's an incredible honour to be invited to share tonight's celebration with you. And indeed to speak to you. For those who don't know me or don't know much about my role as Commissioner for Children, essentially my job is to promote the rights and the safety and the well-being of all children and young people in this state of Victoria. My job includes advising government essentially on what needs to change so that we can do better by our children, again, every single child. I have particular parts of my job that focus on vulnerable children. So part of my job is to oversight our youth justice system, our child protection system, and our out-of-home care system, to try and make sure that as a state, we're doing everything we possibly can to make sure that we're looking after these kids. I also work to make sure that children are safe when they're away from their families, when they're in organisations, whether they're at school or kinder, whether they're going to sporting clubs, or whether they're attending faith-based activities of any nature. For those of you who are parents, I absolutely encourage you to look up our website, the Commission for Children and Young People, to learn a little bit about the child safe standards so that you know that when your children are attending different organisations, what you can expect of those organisations so that they do the right thing by your children. I know from my friends and colleagues of Muslim faith that the holy month of Ramadan has both a personal and a communal dimension. It's a time directed at upholding commitment, compassion, at self-discipline, at spirituality and improvement. But it's also a time, I know, that is in part about coming together. So at the end of each day, the process of coming together with family and community for iftar is very much about coming together, sharing food, sharing stories, and sharing time with one another. One of the key things I've learnt in my job as Children's Commissioner is the importance of family and community to children. Of course, we have to look after our children, we have to provide them with food and clothes and shelter, but actually it's relationships. It's relationships with family, it's relationships with community members that actually help children form their values, that help them forge their identities, that give them a sense of purpose and a sense of self. And whilst that might seem obvious, I have to tell you, based on what I see in my job, too many children in our state haven't had the benefit of strong, safe relationships with family or the wider community. And the hardship and the challenges and the suffering they experience as a result is immense. The fact is, and I think we've seen some of it already here tonight, and we've seen it reflected in the images of children and families in the video, that when children have the embrace of their communities, they tend to be healthier, they tend to do better at school, they socialise better with their peers, they do better all round. Part of that, of course, is having a strong connection to their culture, including their religious beliefs. Passing on stories, traditions and practices helps children to develop a strong sense of belonging and identity. Now, as Children's Commissioner, you'll hear me talk a lot about children's rights. Children have a whole raft of rights. They include some of the obvious ones: the right to be safe, the right to healthcare, the right to education, but they also include the right to understand their cultural identity, their practices and values. They have the right to live in a world where they're valued no matter what their faith, their cultural background, no matter who they are. I feel incredibly lucky to live in Victoria, in a state that has such an incredible, rich range of people from different cultures, people of different faiths, people with a whole range of different values. I experience that every day. I also, every day in my job as Children's Commissioner, see just how important culture and living in diversity is for children, for their lives and experiences. I say again, I'm incredibly pleased to be here tonight. It felt incredibly fitting that I've come on and come to my first of these dinners at the same time as we had the first performance from a group of pretty remarkable children. I have to say, a lot of the images that I saw in the video that you played in opening absolutely embodied for me what's good about community, what's good about people working together, what's good about people working and supporting their children. I'm looking forward to sharing the dinner with you tonight. I congratulate Mina for the work that you do and for the incredible spirit that you represent. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Venerable Kotis Santindriya Thero, who has been serving the Sri Lankan Buddhist community in Melbourne. He is the chief resident monk at the Daham Nikitanya Temple. He actively participates in chaplaincy and pastoral care services with the Royal Melbourne Hospital since June 1998. He was awarded with Victoria's Award for Multicultural Affairs by the Victorian Premier and the Chairman of Victorian Multicultural Commission. Please join me in welcoming Venerable Kotis Santindriya Thero.
Ayubowan. It's my pleasure to be here, and I'm very grateful, and I like to pay my gratitude to the organizing committee for inviting me to be here. When one of my friends rang me and informed me that one of his friends will come to invite me for this occasion. Actually, I didn't have any idea about this. I said, yes, of course, I'll be there if I have time. And when Mr. I can't remember his name, Asla. So, yeah, three of members. 2 weeks ago, they came to our temple to give me the invitation card. At that moment, I was very busy, and we want to place a statue, and it was raining at that time, and the vehicle was walked over there, so we could not place the statue on there, but they helped us, and they gave me that invitation card, but I could not read it because I was busy at that time. When I go to my room and I open the invitation card and I saw that it is invited, they have invited me for the dinner, and I was surprised. So I rang him and I asked him, my dear baby, you want me to stay there for dinner? They said, no, we know that you are not eating after 12 noon. You are okay to go, but until you go, we are not served dinner. So I would like to say, I am not going today. If I am not going, they will never serve you dinner. It's unfair. So it's my duty to go as soon as possible for you to enjoy your dinner. Anyway, I am very happy to be here with you, to see your smiling face, because I am, as a Buddhist monk, we are represented Buddhism, and we are here to teach the people to live, how to live in peace and harmony. I am from Hume Council area. So we are having an interfaith group over there, and we are meeting together to discuss our problems among our communities and how we can help our communities. And also, they are having a program to visit place of worship or religious places. So we used to visit mosques, temples, churches, and Hindu temples as well. So we know that a lot of our people, they like to learn other religions, and they like to learn other rituals, and they like to learn other cultures. So we open our doors. Please come to our temple and see what we are doing. And if you can learn our culture, and if you can learn something from our religion, it will be important for you, because we are here not to divide our community. We are here to strengthen our community, to live in peace and harmony. So that's why I am here, and I am very pleased to be here with you. So I am very, very grateful for the organizing committee for inviting me to be here today. Anyway, we know that today the world is they're thinking about some people there are very little people who are extremists. We know that. Not only our religion, even in other religions as well. It's very little people. But we cannot blame to the entire community or entire people. Religion is religion. What the masters are teach, our master, the Lord Buddha teach, you have to avoid evil, avoid bad. And you have to develop good things. That means wholesome deeds. And not only that, you have to purify your mind. That's the teaching of the Buddha. So, we always try to teach these things. To be a good human, what you have to do? You have to develop good things. And you have to avoid bad things. That is, if the religion said this is bad, we have to follow that teaching because we are human. If we are human, we should try to understand other feelings as well. Our feelings is their feelings, and their feelings is our feeling. So, like a mother who love their children, we should love other community as well as one mother. Like that Buddha said, Mata yataniyang puttang ayusayaka puttamanurakhe evampi sabba bhutesu manasam bhavya parimana. Like mother who care her children, you have to think about your community as well. Don't divide them. Don't ignore them. You have to think about it. That's what my message is today. So I'm very pleased to be here, and I invite you all, you people, one day come to our temple, and we meet together, and we discuss together, and we can share our thoughts. Not only our thoughts, whatever we have, we can share with your community, and you can share with us as well. So I invited you humbly, please come to our temple as well and try to understand and try to learn something from our religion as well. So then only we can strengthen our community, and I think from the grassroots level we have to start this. And we should be transparent. Whatever we do, whatever we think, and whatever we are going to do, then all people can understand ourselves. Then no doubt as nowhere. Then no comments as well. So thank you very much once again for inviting me to here. And I again and again invite you people to come to our temple one day so we can get together and we can discuss our problem, if there are any problem, and we can learn something from you and you can learn something from us. Thank you very much once again.
She is the current member of the Legislative Council in the Parliament of Victoria and a leader of Victorian Greens. She is one of those who migrated to Australia as a child from the war-torn Sri Lanka and could immediately recognize the high standards of living in Australia, like access to education, access to healthcare, free public libraries. And with the burning desire to give back something to community, she worked as a social worker and started her journey in active politics. Her primary focus, which is also her political statement, is instilling a sense of responsibility in caring for one another to help communities grow. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Samantha Ratnam.
Assalamu alaikum. It is wonderful to be with you here tonight. I too would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation as the traditional owners of this land and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'd also like to acknowledge each and every one of you as special guests this evening, and all the dignitaries, my colleagues at local government, at federal government and representatives of Mina. Firstly, a huge thank you to Mina for once again bringing us together on this beautiful evening with a beautiful night of food to come before us. And I also want to congratulate Mina on another successful year of working with communities and bringing communities together, as you saw a showcase earlier tonight. This dinner, which I have had the great pleasure of attending for a couple of years now, is a great chance to celebrate all that has been achieved, and certainly Mina has achieved so many great things in the past year. It is also a chance to reflect on the year that has passed. And I want to acknowledge that in the year that has passed, our community, your community, the Muslim community, have had a very challenging year. With just 3 months ago, that most terrible attack that occurred in Christchurch. I've just returned from New Zealand. Just 1 week ago, I was in Auckland for a conference that was marking 3 months since that most horrific event, but a conference designed to bring people together, organisations, individuals, politicians, leaders, both from New Zealand and Australia, together in Auckland to work on how we can prevent that ever occurring again in our countries and in our world. And the 3 takeaway messages I took from that conference, which was a powerful congregation of people, was that we have to continue to call our leaders out when they spout division or hatred. We need to back words with action and resources, which means funding services, settlement services, organisations like Mina to continue the work that you're doing, and that we have to listen to communities if we are going to get this right and really build socially cohesive societies. And on that note, I want to thank Mina, because you are doing that work of raising the voices of your communities so that our leaders can truly hear what our communities are going through. And in conclusion, I want to assure you that you are not alone in this work. We are all there with you every step of the way, and we are going to be working with you towards a truly cohesive, multicultural societies where all our religions, cultures, our cultural practices are respected and celebrated in this beautiful country that we call Australia. So thank you once again, Mina, and I look forward to supporting your work in the year to come.
On this note, I would like to call upon our next speaker, who has worked as an interfaith project manager in Uniting Church, coordinated the Muslim Leadership Program with the Islamic Council of Victoria at the La Trobe University, and works on reconciliation and peace-building activities at every opportunity. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Larry Marshall.
Very nice to see those young children sing. I'm still blown away by that. It's fabulous. And I was going to sing that for you, so I think they've saved you. They've saved you guys, you know. Because I'm a person of 2 countries too. I'm from Sri Lanka, born in Sri Lanka, and very proud to say that I live in Australia. But I've also just got my dual citizenship, and I'm hoping to get my passport pretty soon. So the feelings about what's going on in Sri Lanka today really, I think, are in the front of our minds for those of us who keep an eye on what's going on in our homeland. And Samantha raised the point about the bombings in New Zealand, and that was homegrown Australian racism. And Australian racism is a reality. It has been with us since the Aboriginal people suffered colonialism. And colonialism is a similar, there is a similarity between the histories of Australia and Sri Lanka to that extent. We had a colonial master in the Dutch, then the Portuguese, Dutch, and then the British. And while we had those colonizers, we were more or less united against them to some degree, to a large degree. We wanted them out. However, when independence was granted to Sri Lanka in 1948, it wasn't a harmonious community that then took control of our country. Again, the divisions between majorities and minorities began to take place, and politicians raised their ugly heads and helped us to be a divided country, and in the end, a country at war for nearly 25 years, where 100,000 people died. So, to unite us again, I have to turn to the World Cup of Cricket, where Sri Lanka just beat England, and every Sri Lankan on the planet was just jumping with joy. And it shows that the things that unite us are far, far greater than the few things that divide us. They're far greater. This room is a good example of that. We are people who love our children, we love our culture, we love our music, we love our history, and we love the fact that Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam and Christianity live together in our country. That's our wealth. That's our richness, as well as being the most beautiful island in the world. Well, that's just another point. So I think we have to face up to the fact that there's a lot of work to do in this large Sri Lankan community in Melbourne. And to that end, I want to say that my work has been in interfaith. It's been in organising a Harmony Day in Melbourne 4 times over the last 4 years. And this next Harmony Day, like Reverend Kote, Venerable Kote, thank you for your invitation to your temple. I would like to invite everybody here to come to our Harmony Day on July 20th in Mulgrave at the Community Centre. It's the 5th year we're running this, and it, of course, is inclusive. It is, of course, aware of the pain that people are sharing about what's happening in Sri Lanka and finding ways to solve that here and then take it back to Sri Lanka. And I congratulate Mina, my friend Said Sheriffdeen, who invited us. Thank you very much for having me here.
Our next speaker today, she is a member of the Australian House of Representatives since November 2001, representing the division of Colwell, and has been Colwell's elected federal member of parliament for 6 consecutive terms. Her passion includes on multiple dimensions: jobs for existing migrants, jobs, hope for new migrants, aged care, refugees, multiculturalism, especially understanding the Islamic culture since the arrival of the Afghan Cameliers 150 years ago. Please join me in welcoming our chief guest speaker for tonight, Maria Van Vakinu.
Can I just begin by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people and pay my respects to elders past and present. To all of the distinguished guests, I feel like I'm amongst a lot of members of my very extended family in public life, because all of you here, we cross each other's paths, whether it's Larry. I haven't seen Larry for quite a while, so it's nice to see you, Larry. I want to firstly, I want to be a little bit more optimistic about the resilience of the Australian community. And the seat that I hold, the federal seat of Cornwall, has, and many of my constituents are in this room this evening, we have the largest community of Australians of Muslim faith in Victoria. When I became the member, it was the largest in Australia. We've been kind of pushed out into, I think, 2nd or 3rd position now after New South Wales. I came into Parliament just a couple of months after September 11, so that in many ways marked a very challenging period for me as a new Member of Parliament in a constituency that went from being pretty much a member of the broader migrant community in Australia to being then singled out the next day and defined as a Muslim community, and from that point onwards encouraged the broader community, because of events beyond our control, encouraged to see our neighbours as being somehow a problem for us. So I'm going to, at that point, and that was a long time ago, I want to particularly acknowledge Reverend Cote, because he was very instrumental in joining the Hume City Council's interfaith network that was established all those years ago. And the purpose of it was to immediately move to bring together faith leaders in our community as an act of solidarity against what was actually happening to the community. It's been 18 years, and the last time I saw Reverend Cote was up at the temple in Mickleham, and I do encourage you to go and visit the Sri Lankan temple up there. It's actually quite beautiful. And it's a symbol of the very active and dynamic interfaith community in Cornwall, but also in Melbourne's northern suburbs. So I guess my message is, and I think Mina ought to be congratulated for being a significant part of a large number of organisations that have over the years worked together to show leadership in the community about how we can best mitigate against all the adversity and actually build our cohesion, protect our cohesion, and build on it. And we do that for the sake of our community. And I want to acknowledge members of the police force as well, because who are here this evening, because they are a significant part of that broader network. And even Frank from Bandura, you didn't think you were going to get singled out, Frank, did you? Shouldn't have told me you were for Australia Post. But I think this is a reflection of just how broad this network of community and friendship extends. And we come together to share Eid and to share the many iftar dinners that all of us have just finished taking part in. I just want to say that all the things that we do are important for the sake of our children as well. And they're important because often young people cannot understand a lot of the broader conflicts and tensions in the community that impact on their families as well. And being a young person and going through those stages of integration in this country, having to deal with how your own cultural inheritance and your faith, how you negotiate that with the broader community, doing that successfully will decide just how you end up understanding yourself as an adult. Now, we've all been through that. Samantha came here when she was obviously a young girl. I came here when I was a young girl. I think most of us, I don't know how many of us have been born overseas, but I'm going to guess about 50% of this room, maybe 65%, has been born overseas. So growing up in Australia for me wasn't easy, but I was lucky to come here at a time when political leadership in this country realised that the diversity of Australia, the multicultural diversity of this country, was actually our greatest strength. And rather than trying to change everybody and force them to fit into something else, politicians of the past discovered that actually we needed to meet each other halfway, that Australia is a migrant country with an Indigenous inheritance. We've yet to settle our issues with our Indigenous community. However, we are still a young country with that Indigenous inheritance, and we need to find a medium, a happy medium in terms of what we understand an Australian to be. So the great fights around the Australian identity, the ones that are coming specifically from the right, and I think, Nat, you referred to some of those. Sorry, Samantha, Nat's over here. Where is she? That idea of who is an Australian is a challenging issue. We all have to deal with it. We've dealt with it in the past. We'll continue to deal with it. But I'm really excited that the community I represent and the community I live amongst has the capacity to show the leadership and the knowledge and the wisdom to come together to build the cohesion that we need to help our young people grow and live happy and be happy. And God, whenever you see every kid I see stand on a stage has the same expression on their face. It's that sort of embarrassment but pride of being on the stage, and they're probably thinking, how cool is this? I don't think this is cool. But they did a great job, and the children here this evening are no different to the children anywhere else in this country, and that's the message. And it's our responsibility as leaders in the community, as adults, to ensure that we create an environment where our children can get through that process of understanding themselves, building their identity, dealing with their cultural inheritance and their faith, learning their mother tongues, because, you know, the great value of Australia is the capacity we have to be a multilingual society, and we shouldn't just throw that out because it doesn't fit someone's standard view of what an Australian is. So I'm optimistic that so far we've done well, and we'll continue to do well. And despite those who oppose the sorts of things that have been said here this evening, I don't believe they're the majority of Australians. They might be loud, but they're not the majority. And we need to ensure that we stake our claim to Australia and argue our case that multiculturalism in Australia is what the Australian identity is, and it's based on migrants, because this new country, the young country, is a country of migrants, and we have to resolve our issue with our Indigenous Australians. We have to reconcile that finally. And to finish up, I am really pleased, because I go to a lot of functions, to see lots of migrant organisations actually coming together with Indigenous organisations and working together. And I think together we should be able to finally give our first people the recognition that they deserve as the first people of this country, and the ownership and the respect that they are the traditional owners of the land, that we're here, we respect that. And I want to wish you all a very good evening and congratulations to Mina. And I'm happy to see you again next year perhaps, but not only just next year, but in the course of my 7th term in Parliament as I am Federal Member for Paul. Thank you.
The head of school, Darul Uloom College of Victoria, prominent Islamic school in Melbourne. He holds a double degree in Islamic theology and Arabic language. He stresses on the importance of education for children academically and spiritually. Please join me in welcoming Sheikh Abdullah Hedishi.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace and blessings be upon you, all my dear brothers and sisters. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Afdal as-salatu wa atammu taslim ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, and I send my peace and salutations upon the blessed Prophet Muhammad and all previous prophets. May peace and blessings be upon them all. As I begin, respected ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to also acknowledge the traditional owners of the land and pay my respect to the elders past and present and the emerging. I'm very delighted, respected brothers and sisters, to be amongst you this evening to commemorate and celebrate the conclusion of the month of Ramadan and celebrate the Eid, which we have celebrated as Muslims a couple of weeks ago. As we do so with such a blessed gathering and a congregation coming from different backgrounds, different ethnic backgrounds, and the variety of people who we sit together today with. Respected brothers and sisters, the message that we perhaps like to capitalize on and the words of wisdom that we've heard from the previous speakers is pretty much the words of wisdom that we promote, that we propagate in our mosques during the month of Ramadan and during the Friday sermons and any other congregation. It's the message that how can we live in peace and harmony. It's the message which underpins the very cause and purpose of the message of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, and as it was the cause and purpose of the message that was sent for the Prophet Jesus, Prophet Moses, and all of the previous prophets, peace be upon them. Perhaps it's worth to note, my dear brothers and sisters, that we as Muslims, and this is something we'd like to share with all of our brothers and sisters, whilst we give due importance to the domain of worship, to the domain of the rights that underpin the interaction and the relationship between the slave and the Lord, but similarly, by the same token, what we believe, and this is what we have been taught and what underpins our religion, is that as we pay attention and we have this cognizance in the rights of Allah, the rights of the Creator, we ought to have the same attention and cognizance and observance of the rights of the creation of Allah Ta'ala. We are taught by the blessed Prophet, peace be upon him, that a person can perhaps have shortcomings between him and the Creator. And therefore, one of the attributes that God has named himself with is all forgiving. It's inevitable that as a human being, as individuals, I will have shortcomings between me and the Creator as far as the acts of worship are concerned, as far as the rituals that have been prescribed for me. But what we do know, my dear brothers and sisters, is that we are taught, and what underpins our faith and religion is that we need to give the utmost importance to the right of the creation of Allah Azza wa Jal, irrespective of their race, irrespective of their background, irrespective of the belief. And these were the very verses that our beloved brother had recited earlier on, insinuating the fact that we are brothers in humanity. In fact, the verses explicitly instate this, that we are brothers in humanity. We belong to Adam and Eve, and hence we are brothers and sisters irrespective of our backgrounds. In fact, and I'd like to conclude with this, I'm sure that we have heard a lot of words of wisdom from the previous speakers, but one thing that I'd like to conclude with, my dear brothers and sisters, is a narration by our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, which very much illustrates this point. And this is something we try to convey to our youth, to our brothers, to our sisters, how vital it is for us, if we are to consider ourselves as observant Muslims, then by the same token we need to be equally mindful of the right of the creation of God. So in one of the narrations, the Prophet, peace be upon him, has been quoted to have said, he had the companions surrounding him and he posed a rhetorical question to them, that, "Oh my companions, can you give me the definition of a person who is bankrupt?" And obviously the companions, what came to their immediate thoughts and minds was the literal meaning of bankruptcy. So they said, "O Prophet of Allah, the bankrupt person is the person who does not possess any dinar or dirham," which was the prominent currency at the time, the one who does not possess gold and silver. So the Prophet, peace be upon him, immediately replied back to them, drawing their attention to the contextual meaning of bankruptcy, the ultimate meaning of bankruptcy, the ultimate meaning of loss, whereby he said, the true bankrupt person is the person who is mindful and attentive to all of his rituals in terms of acts of worship, who is mindful of his prayers, mindful of his fasting, mindful of his pilgrimage, mindful of all of that what God has prescribed for him or her. Yet on the other hand, that person had slandered another one. That person had perhaps shed the blood of another human being. That person perhaps had backbited another one, had slandered, has hurt, has inflicted harm, etc. And hence that upon resurrection, that person, all of the righteous deeds that were committed by the person who was inflicting harm on others, they'll be removed and taken away from him and given to the victim. This is our belief, my dear brothers and sisters, and therefore we'd like to congratulate Mina and all of the brothers and sisters who have gathered here tonight so that we can collectively convey and promote this message. Under no circumstance does faith differentiate. Under no circumstance does ethnic background cause any harm or danger. To the absolute contrary, this is our strength. This is the message which all previous prophets had come by, and this is what we are promoting. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to enable us all to act upon the true and genuine teachings of our religion, and that we can together collectively live in such a harmonious society in this beautiful country of ours in a manner that pleases God, and in a manner whereby we can be dutiful to one another, and in a manner whereby we can accept and be dutiful and preserve the rights of one another. And thank you for that.
And to conclude today's event in the perfect manner is to have the conclusion speech given by one of the founders of Mina, who is currently the president of Mina, Brother Mohsin.
Rahim, in the name of Allah, the Almighty, the most gracious, the most merciful. Respected speakers of the night and all of our guests tonight. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May peace, mercy and blessings of the Almighty be upon all of us tonight. I can see the happy faces once Tawqir said this is going to be the last speech. So at last, by the way, it's not a speech, it's just a short vote of thanks. First of all, I definitely want to recognize and thank each one of our guests tonight, men, women, scholars, our community leaders, politicians, kids, all of us. I think you all have made this evening really special for all of us. And when I say it, I really mean it from the bottom of my heart, that we really feel that our Eid is truly complete today by sitting with all of you, by sharing a meal, by sharing our thoughts, by showing our respect to each other, and we really are thankful to all of you. Secondly, I also want to call out all our impressive women speakers and community leaders that we have tonight. In fact, we have had an opportunity to have an overwhelming and the majority of our women speakers. As I was entering in a couple of hours back into the hall, one of my best mates, he told me, "Look mate, I know you're not a great speaker, but I'm happy you'll be on the dais for a few minutes." I said, "Why so?" He said, "I'm happy that you'll be at least adding your contribution to the gender balance on the panel today." So I'm really happy. But on a serious note, I think to see our community leaders right from the local government, Councillor Natalie, the mayor, Liana Buchanan, the commissioner, Samantha Ratnam, our leader in the Victorian Parliament, and last of all, to have Maria Vambakino to join us and honor us this evening. It's a real matter of pride. I am a father of 3 daughters myself, and I'm sure we have a lot of young girls in this room. I really feel happy and proud for all of them to have the opportunity to look up to such inspiring women leadership, leading our communities and growing up and living in Melbourne. So a round of applause to all of them for helping us today. Secondly, and most importantly, I also want to call out our religious scholars and our community leaders and youth leaders that have joined us. And it really shows their magnanimity, their depth of thinking, their understanding of the scripture, and reflecting their true leadership in terms of making time. I'm sure they have other obligations and religious duties and other institutional commitments. So we really want to show our deep respects and thanks to all of our religious leaders and our community leaders tonight. Thank you, Brother Larry Marshall. Thank you so much, Sheikh Abdullah Elisi. And really, thank you so much, Reverend Kote, Satyendriya Thiro. We are honored to have you. I think we all know that we are living in troubled times. We are living at vulnerable times. And more often than not, we see that religion quickly turns a color of extremism, which fuels hate and which leads into violence and bloodshed. By having community leaders and our theologians and learned scholars amongst us, it gives us a true hope that we have got leadership with us who can lead the communities across all faiths, who could use the true scripture and faith as an opportunity to bond us on our common bonds of humanity and to emphasize and to remind us that we all have a shared future on this planet of the earth. None of us are going to get anywhere out of this place. I heard that they're looking for something on Mars or Moon. I don't know about it. And we also don't know, we can't get each other ahead of each other anyway in terms of getting into this vicious cycle of violence. So we really thank for your leadership, thanks for your leadership here. And at this opportunity, I know we have had references to Christchurch, we had references to the Sri Lankan attacks. So we want to take this opportunity while we have this solemn gathering to remember all the lost lives, be it in Christchurch, our brothers and sisters and the youngsters and the innocent lives that was lost in Sri Lanka, or some of the attacks that have happened on our own armed forces back in India as well, and anywhere else where injustice prevails. We remember all those victims in our prayers, and we hope that such gatherings, no matter how small, no matter how far away they are in between, it still will help our community to move towards a more balanced and a just society. And finally, I would like to call upon a lot of other organizations here. We have Victoria Police in the room, so thank you, Senior Sergeant McMaloney. Thank you, Ash Dixit, Senior Sergeant, for supporting us, for being with us today. We have got Sergeant Nick Swiney as well with his family from the Metropolitan Fire Brigade. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We have got a lot of other community leaders, a lot of our like-minded sister organizations. We have Brother Khaisar from IFAM, Islamic Forum for Australian Muslims. We have Brother Shafar from Australian Malayali Islami Association. We have Brother Alavi from Australian Islamic Mission. We have Dr. Irene and Mr. Suryan from ECCV, Ethnic Communities Council of Victoria. And I'm sure I'm leaving out a few names here as well, so I beg your pardon if I have. But we have got a number of our community organizations with similar motivation to support us to make our communities further stronger. And lastly, I want to thank two groups or two individuals. One is our kids. So it was really emotional for me to witness, because I can't, and I'm ashamed of this, I can't spell a word in Yavuru or any other indigenous language myself. So I think it's a good reminder for me and resolve to go and at least learn some words or a few lines at least to as a marker for respect to our indigenous people here. So thanks to the kids, they have been preparing for a long time. Thanks to those who are training them, disciplining them, and thanks to their parents and all of them. And lastly, our MC, can you please have a round of applause? So, Thank you so much.
you.
So, Brother Tawqir, as he said, he's newly married. He's a new arrival to Australia. A lot of new things. First time being MC for us, but looks like he's done well. So, thank you, Tawqir. Thanks to all the volunteers. Thanks to your families. Thanks to everybody who's been here. Thanks to the folks who are serving us some delicious food. And our apologies if we took a few minutes extra before the food can arrive you. And Eid Mubarak to all of you. Assalamu alaikum.
This is one of the wonderful and nicely organized event by our wonderful Mina and bright sparkling team of people all across from various communities, various religious communities, various political communities, which is giving us a various good platform to connect with people with diverse background, with diverse beliefs, to know and understand their culture, to know and believe their culture, and how to come together and celebrate and have a feeling of togetherness, so that we can be more coming together. So this is one of the wonderful event nicely organized with Mina, and a wonderful dinner and a very delicious dinner for that. And with this, thanks a lot.
Poonam from Nepal, and I got this wonderful opportunity to be here. Mr. Mohsin Bhai called me, and he's a friend of my brother, and I'm privileged to be here because it's such a wonderful place where all the people from different culture are here. Basically, being Nepalese, I got this opportunity. I have attended many other dawats, but this is a very nice dawat-e walima, which I enjoyed a lot, and hope the prosperity of this organization, and would like to do some services if I get an opportunity to do something. Thank you very much.
My name is Dan. I'm really pleased to have been invited to the Mina event tonight. It's such a wonderful opportunity to be here with so many people who want to support the Muslim community in Melbourne, and so many other people from outside of the Muslim community connecting together across faiths and across cultures. I'm really pleased to be part of this because it just shows from young to old, community is the most important thing, and coming together in a genuine community event like this to celebrate Eid and to celebrate community together, to share a meal together with such lovely, warm people. That's what community and Australia is all about. So I'm just really grateful to be invited to share a beautiful meal with this wonderful organisation. Thank you so much.
Been coming to Mina for the last couple of years, and I feel very welcomed here. The moment I walk in, there is someone to greet me. When I come up, there is someone to greet me. It feels so nice, so warm, and so welcoming. And I know so many of them so well now. It feels like I have come to, in my own home surrounding. It is so nice. Plus, everybody is so warm, so welcoming. And
I'm Julie Nesbitt from the Commission for Children and Young People in Victoria. Incredibly honoured to be invited tonight, and have really enjoyed the exposure, particularly to the children who sang. That was absolutely beautiful, but to appreciate the messages of peace and the community that's so welcoming to Victorians of all cultures and faiths. It's been a very memorable evening. Thank you.
This has been a very interesting night for me. As a Christian, I have very, very strong beliefs and civic duties, and tonight I found myself in a brand new environment I've never been in before, and I was very, very humbled and very, very proud to be a participant of this feast and everything that it represented. So to the Mina organisation, as a Christian, I thank you for allowing me to be a part of your night. God bless, and I hope that we have the chance to do it again sometime in the future. Thank you very much.